All right, joining us now is the India head of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Menon. Thank you very much, Mr. Menon, for speaking with us. With the discovery of this Omicron variant, although many are saying it's much milder than Delta, at least from the evidence that we've seen so far, what should be the priority for policymakers here in India? Should they start thinking of booster doses, or healthcare workers, elderly folks who've got their doses maybe 6 or 8 months ago, or should we think of inoculating as much of the adult population with the second dose as much as is possible? What should be the priority?
Right. No, sure. Thanks a lot, Mr. Jacob, for having me. There are a few questions bundled into your question, so let me just try and unpack them. So the first on, whether we know Omicron is milder or not, I think we just need to wait at least a couple more weeks because, as you're aware, the data that came out of South Africa and the numbers there have spiked tremendously, but it also started with infections in younger people, and younger people tend to be more resistant or have better immunity. So we don't have definitive data on how severe the infections are going to be. I think it'll be important to wait another 2-3 weeks to see that. But I agree with you that the early data does give us some room for optimism, but we need to wait for more definitive information to come out from South Africa. And the good thing is South Africa actually has really good genomic sequencing and surveillance. And they've also networked with 8 countries in sub-Saharan Africa to be able to do cross-country comparisons. So I think let's wait for that. But, the early information, is I'd say borderline heartening, but we don't know for sure.
I just want your thoughts on Omicron itself. Although, even the South African scientists who we spoke to are saying that it's much milder, the cases of hospitalization are far fewer than the other variants that we've seen, most notably Delta. But even those variants took some time to develop. So do you think Omicron could also go the way of those other variants like Delta and others, whereby it starts off slowly, starts off with mild cases, but eventually it acquires a life of its own?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and that's an important public health consideration. So I think there is definitely priority on vaccinating all eligible adults at this point. And, we've got pretty high first dose coverage, but second dose coverage is around the 50% mark, and we need to up that. Now, for most countries, I think the trade-off is going to be, if you have a constrained number of vaccines, do you use it for boosters, or do you use it to cover people who've not yet got 2 doses? I think India is in a unique place and a good place in that we have significant domestic vaccine manufacturing capacity. So I don't think we'll need to make that trade-off. I think we can continue to expand the coverage of the second dose, and then once we have data on whether Omicron really needs a booster and it responds well to boosters, that I think is a decision the NECVAC will probably take relatively soon. We should be in a position to be able to do both. So I don't see it, at least for India, as a trade-off. However, if the world decides to go for boosters, I think that is going to have a major equity challenge for parts of the world, and particularly sub-Saharan Africa, where even single-dose vaccine coverage is extremely low, and the emergence of Omicron in these populations shows the dangers of low coverage in any part of the world. So I think it's really that truism that you've heard of, no one is safe until as everyone is safe. I think that consideration will need to factor in, particularly for I think the richer countries that have lots of vaccine stocks on hand and are going in for boosters. I think there the conversation of do they need more booster coverage, or should they actually be making sure that the rest of the world has at least one vaccine dose? I think that's going to be an important one. For India, I think that might be less of a trade-off because we have sufficient domestic vaccine manufacturing capacity.
All right, Mr. Menon, thank you very much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. Thank you for your time.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Jacob. Bye-bye.